I will happily go and work for Domino's delivering pizzas to support something that I want to do compared to working in the four walls where I am now. Yeah. People will hear the 4.5 million say that's amazing, but who was there when we had one customer a day? That was me. Who was there when we had 2 parcels going out that week with DPD? Me. Was there anyone else there? No.
Hi there. So we've got another special interview for you here. We've got Tom Pereira, who's got quite an interesting tale to tell us. And
hello.
We'll start right at the beginning, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
I'm quite pleased to have you here because I seem to be like the oldest man in town. And
I think you're still the oldest man.
Oh, that's no good. So tell us, where have you come from then? What's your background?
So my background is actually in trading. When I was about 17, I was fascinated by it. And I just wanted to get involved. Unfortunately, at that time, I think we were going through that period where everyone wanted a CV that had gone to uni. So every place that I applied, of which I did thousands of emails and thousands of calls, just wanted someone who had already been to university and got, I guess, their kind of like academic profile. At 18, I didn't have that, so I had to go to uni. And I do mean that hat because I don't think it was really what I really wanted to do. I've always been quite a worker. I prefer working and doing something than learning for a very, very long period of time to get a piece of paper at the end of it, which you don't use. I mean, that's
this is the issue,
reality of uni, Also, most of the people that go to uni, whatever they're studying, they don't do that as a profession. So again, for me, didn't make much sense. But anyways, I went to Bournemouth Uni, studied finance and economics with the idea of getting into trading afterwards. Managed to get myself first, and then I got my first job. So in true trader fashion, I worked out the exact bare minimum I needed to get my first, and then did that in the exams I needed. But anyways, yes. So I started trading mean reversion spreads at a prop company down in Bournemouth, believe it or not. After I had struggled with a couple of different companies in London, they just weren't very good outfits and weren't.
And can I just say, I know what mean reversion is, but can you explain to people out there what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So mean reversion just means that if something goes down, you're expecting it to go back to some sort of moving average or some price point that you believe is where the mean or the average area, which most people will be interested in, is going to go back to. It works very, very well in very volatile markets around news and stuff like that, as long as you can get in and out. But when I say spreads, what I mean is that we're buying and selling something simultaneously. So, and sometimes even a basket of products. So have equity spreads where we're doing, let's say the Euro stocks against the DAX and the CAC, or we'd do bond spreads. So we used to buy the Bund and then sell the BTP and the OAT against it, which is the French and Italian bond.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I started doing. When I started, I took the job without a salary, moved from where I was in Essex back down to Bournemouth, where I'd been at uni, and got paid an allowance of £1,000, I think, which was for expenses, essentially, kind of like just to keep me going for 6 months.
Wow.
And basically at the end of the 6 months, if I couldn't make any money, then that was it. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. So, but
that's your kind of first experience of needing to make some money. Although your story probably is different.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in terms of trading, yes, I had dabbled with trading myself. When I was at uni, I'd started a trading society. Not really sure what we were doing, really, apart from just having a chat about it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But I'd lost a bit of money. Not much, probably maybe 500 quid, maybe £1,000, something like that. So yeah, I'd had a taste of what I wanted to get into, and I knew that I wanted to be involved in that profession. So anyways, I was there from pretty much, I guess, it's about 6 months after I'd finished uni. I was there for, I believe, about 3 years. In that period, we navigated some interesting periods. I mean,
So this sounds like the Great Crash, was it?
No, so we had I was involved in 2016, which obviously you had Brexit, which was the biggest payday of my career and still is. And we also had the Trump saga when he got elected, which was a very poor day. Not good. It should have been a good day, but wasn't. For some reason, I just couldn't read the tape. I couldn't believe why everyone was going on.
What were you positioned in for?
So I wasn't positioned in anything. Oh, what was I positioned? We weren't allowed anything overnight. So we were completely flat. I
Mm.
I mean, everyone thought it was a done deal that we were going to remain. So that was the big problem.
I think I actually had a bet on of Brexit happening, and then I started watching the show overnight.
Yeah.
And Farage had even conceded, hadn't he? And it was like, so I was like, I ended up, I quickly shot on and chopped it out for
for a small loss.
Sat there crying for like the next 4 hours.
Yeah. So so to rewind back the tape to that point in time, I think equities opened something like between 5 and 10% lower in Europe. Obviously, the bonds were going to be extremely chaotic because you've got some people who want to put all their money into German bonds because they were the safest in Europe at the time. They'd also want to get out of maybe the Italian bonds because they were the riskiest at the time. And then you've got the oat in the middle. So that was the spread that I traded the most. And it would probably move, let's say, 2 points in a normal day. And in a busy day, maybe it'd move 4 points. A point just being what we're using as a monetary value during the day, because it's hard to explain to someone who's trading outrights. It's not like trading 1 point of the US 30. Yeah. This is a big value item. The 1 point is a lot. We're trying to get in at point something to get out at point something.
This is it. I've mentioned a few times to people about the bond market is the daddy, and so the amount of money you have to commit to that's why they dictate to everybody.
So and I think the spread that I was trading opened something like 30 points under where it was trading the day before. So we're talking huge moves like that have potentially never been seen in that spread ever. And I would usually trade 10 lots. That was the most I could trade. That was the most I had limits for. Bearing in mind, when I talk about where I was trading, I was on an actual desk. It wasn't like challenges and being funded. This was real money from day one that you are making and losing. So my boss said to me before, and he's like, just don't put any more than 3 on. Anyways, I had some orders in to be filled at the open, which is 7 o'clock for the futures open compared to 8 o'clock for the cash open. And they got filled, but they got what we call legged. And by legged, I mean that one side of it got filled.
Because you're doing spread, you need to do both sides.
Yeah, so one side of it got filled and the other side didn't get filled, meaning that, you then got an outright position, which is completely not what you need and extremely risky.
Because you're in a massive size, aren't you?
You've got no stop, almost. Well, not almost, you have no stop. Anyways, a second later, my BTP leg did get filled, and thank goodness. The market then went grey because it went to a limit down. So, well, when I say limit down, it may have been limit up in one of the legs and limit down in another. It was just that they had to close all of them just to get some kind of stability back. Anyways, when it opened up, I put in a what I thought was quite a good offer at sort of 10 points, which would be a huge amount of money anyway. It opened, past where.
So how many kind of bips is that if you equate that?
It's nearly impossible for me to tell because we only traded in points, and point, I think on that one trade, it's come out at something like 85 grand.
Wow.
Is how much money was made from putting it on at 7 and to getting filled at 703, once the market opened again. I can only remember how much it was.
No, sure. Annualize that. Yeah.
So it's very hard to work out exactly. And again, it's hard for people to work out because, on one side, you're losing an awful lot of money, but as long as you're making an awful lot of money on the other side, that's all that matters. I think, weirdly enough, we may have actually made money on each part of the legs, which is really weird because usually they're supposed to be correlated. So they're actually going, with each other. You should always lose on one and make on the other.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so that was kind of I wouldn't say that was my first introduction. I traded for quite a while beforehand. But that was my first kind of real, I guess, big payday.
Sense of what the quantum can be, yeah.
Yeah, and I think looking on the other side of it, how scary it can be too. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, particularly if you're operating in a kind of demo market or you're operating under the guise of stops. Those stops are not guaranteed.
No.
They will get pulled at market price. If there is no market, where do you get out?
This is interesting, yeah, because there's a lot of people moaning about slippage, etc. at the moment and wanting to move to different regimes of spread and commissions and things. You're going you need to understand that that's based on a market-making spread, really. And if the market's not there, it's volatile.
I mean, slippage is part of the game, and you should be making enough money on the trade you're making money in to accommodate for some sort of slippage. And, again, without trying to be funny, like the size we're using is so small that is not big slippage.
Exactly.
You know, when I've traded beforehand on spreads that I've been trading, I've had like £1,000, €1,000, because we were in euros, €1,000 slippage just to get in, let alone what it's going to be if I get
but relative to the trade you're doing, you're thinking, well,
of course, it's all relative, but slippage is something that's always going to be there. So, anyways, that was kind of what I'd been doing until about 2017. And to be honest with you, the brutal honesty is we weren't making enough money in it to make sense anymore. It was based on volatility. The volatility kind of come out of the market, even though I guess over the last sort of 7 or 8 years, it's not been very low volatility, but it hasn't been volatile. And the spread trading just wasn't worth doing. So I got the opportunity to move back to Essex from where I was in Bournemouth, and I got a job at an oil trading company. Again, completely different type of environment. You know, working with a fairly big company, but without really actually having something that I knew I was able to do. You know, I started trading oil, and to be honest, after that, I thought, well, what else is out there? You know, I got the opportunity to move again, and
a lot of people are going to be thinking, this is a guy you've done all your research, you've been involved in fantastic arena of real financial trading, and yet I'm getting the suspicion already that it's not happening for you.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at the small oil trading company, they had a massive loss, which was what they called the black hole. They were trading everything OTC, so it wasn't like, again, you know, when you see on the screen what you've made and lost, that's actually what it is. If you're doing a lot of OTC swaps, then you don't really know until you know.
Yeah.
And the bank comes calling for, you know, a large sum of money, and they had me in an area where they wanted to start putting money into, and that money basically vanished. So
can you just explain to everyone again, if they don't know, what OTC swaps are?
So it's over the counter. It's you're trading with a counterparty. So it's like me and you trading today.
So rather than trading on an exchange, we've kind of
made an agreement that we are going to trade at a certain price at a specified level. And then once it's on, you know, you've then got market. The market is then still rolling, but we're locked in at that price.
Yeah.
The problem is when they start to do things like hedges. And what happened on this trade was the hedge was put on, but the wrong way round. So instead of reducing the position, it doubled the position and it was the wrong way.
Panic time.
Which was quite interesting, because had they, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda is the best thing in trading ever. But had they taken it off a few days earlier, they would have made money. Had they taken it off a few days later, they would have made a lot of money. When they took it off, they lost money. So, but
have you walked
still
away?
The right
have
thing
you walked
to do.
away with that though? Because this is something that's happened to me loads in my life. That's actually the best thing to do, though, isn't it? If it's a trade that's not on for the right reason, you put a line through it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything I do is completely, you know, using stops now, so I don't have that ambiguity. I don't have a decision to be made. But yeah, I completely agree. When you know it's not right, it shouldn't be on. There's no two ways about it.
And I think that's kind of instructive for a lot of people starting out first into the finance. Sometimes you end up in positions that don't look good. You don't have to, don't try and own something that is wrong.
No,
just start again.
No. Yeah, no. So, anyways, and basically where I was working, the area that I was going to work into or move into was, believe it or not, FFAs, which are freight derivatives.
Wow.
So freight is obviously what transports oil around the world. And because of this massive loss, they had no way of doing that. They tried to get me involved into the Brent desk, but again, they were pretty up against it at this point.
So was this the period where we got negative carry as well, where it went through?
No. That was only recently.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got an opportunity to move to JP Morgan, and I took that. You know, in my mind at that point, they're paying a huge pension.
So how did that happen?
I just applied for it. I got onto a credit desk as a trading assistant. And that's kind of where I was until I started what I've been doing over the last 5 or 6 years.
Really interesting jobs, but you started off with thousands of applications, and you've done. Yeah, you're continually evolving. So with all this, it's the game's not over. It's learning and
it's just application, really. I think, and something I read or was listening to, which is really important in a book called One Good Trade, is that they say, like, are you actually interested in trading? You know, and it's not a trick question, because being interested in trading means that, you know, after you've lost for 1, 2, 3 years, you still carry on because you're actually interested in making it right. It means that you continue to look at it, you're listening to, podcasts, or you're researching books. If you're interested in trading, you're probably at some point going to make it. It's just, you've got to basically keep going.
You got to land on the right mix of
course. Yeah. So once I got to JP Morgan, it was very apparent to me that I couldn't work in a big company.
And why is that?
I just don't have the personality for it. I can't stand being told what to do. I always want to find something that's interesting and fun to do. And I hate being pigeonholed. I'm just not that kind of person. It just doesn't work for me. I'm sure it works for lots of people. And to a lot of people, I was stupid to leave my job, in JP Morgan, but I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing now. So I think the history will tell you that I've made the right decision. But,
and we'll touch on that in a minute, but in terms of the financial trading and now doing a kind of prop trading, is that just like a releasing mechanism for you? It gives you a work-life balance?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in trading, and I just love the idea of making money, doing something through a chart. I don't know why, I just find it interesting. I find it interesting because it doesn't work a lot of the time as well. I'm super competitive, probably too competitive, and that is probably my downfall a lot of the time, is that I can't say no to maybe the odd revenge trade. But that's part of the game, and ironing out those things is actually what trading's about, not finding the holy grail. There is no holy grail.
Well, this is it. We got lots of discussions, lots of people who found what works for them, but it doesn't mean that everything else is invalid. And
of course,
time frames and different indicators work. And I agree with you, charting wise, that's similar to my background. I've been Citi, been a technical analyst in that, and also fundamentals, macro, and the chart evolves. It's the falling in love with your first view that is the problem. It's the fact you've got to allow for the development of it. And
I think it's just an interesting paradigm to work in, because you have to have a very elastic mind. You have to be basically okay with losing not only the money you're putting on, but you need to be okay with losing what your perception is today,
the hit rate,
because it probably is not right. And if you can do that, if you can work that out, you're probably going to be okay. And as much as I wish it wasn't the case, it is pretty much all just probability. Making more than you lose, which is rubbish, because you want to think that you're the person in control. But
I was just going to say,
ultimately you're not.
It's the 59-40-41, or is it the 49-51? And if you're anywhere in between those two, you're actually doing really well. It sounds like small margins, but
of course.
I had experience at UBS of some guy that came first class honours, never got anything wrong in his whole life, and they put him in a research department, and he didn't realise quite that people might lie to him and misrepresent their figures. And it's a sad tale, because these guys let him down and he topped himself.
Oh wow!
Which was absolutely. So people got to realise there's life out there, and the game isn't going to be a win. You're not going to win all the time, and you've got to understand the parameters that you're just trying to get an edge. You're not going to dominate it. And
no. Where you don't have the size, and when you particularly if you're trading on a funded account, there's nothing compared to
for people that come from the way that we've done it, and even if you drop down into the prop trading world with real funding, adjusting from being at a mega bank and having the clout to then adjusting your
you can't lose.
It's the most difficult thing, isn't it? Because there is no
definitely
size averaging and you dominating and being a price setter. You're now definitely a price taker and follower, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. But we touched on when I was at JP Morgan, and then, I'm obviously not there now. So, I as I said, I was working as an assistant.
Was that a decision that you made yourself, or was it involving your family, or are you married?
I'm not married. So it was a decision that I made on my own. I'll never forget the day when I came home. I was living with my parents at the time, and I said, I will happily go and work for Domino's delivering pizzas to support something that I want to do, compared to working in the four walls where I am now. Yeah. And I don't mean it disrespectfully to anyone who works there, because it is still a great place to work.
You put it in your mind that it's cash flow, isn't it?
But I wanted to do something better with my life. And I think I was 25 at the time, and I said to myself that the next 20 years are going to be the best 20 years of my life in terms of what I am able to do, what I can compute doing in my head, and my energy, and everything that I want to achieve will probably be done, or at least the groundwork will be done in the next 20 years. It won't be done in these four walls. I also had a ringing in my ears every day when I went in, and I seem to be quite susceptible to Wi-Fi. And I was like, this has got to stop.
Like a tinnitus kind of thing.
So I was like, this has got to stop. So, I mean, when I left, they said, is there anything we can do to get you to stay? And I was like, no, unfortunately not, So I don't mean it blasé. I think even if they doubled my salary, I don't think I would have stayed. You know, I was so hell bent on doing something
But that is
else.
so important, because that is what psychologically hurts people, isn't it? You spend 30 years and then at the end of it, you're going,
yeah, what have I done that for?
What the hell?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to do something when I left. My parents had moved from one house to another, which was like almost next door to each other. And they had built a house from scratch, and they still had the other property to sell. In the meanwhile, they had started, I guess, I don't mean it the wrong way, but like hobby farming. They wanted to have meat for themselves. So they had a farm, they had a new house they'd built, and then they had this other property where we grew up as kids. So I said, look, if you are happy to sort me out something very small out of the house price when I'm done, I'll go and clear the house. I'll get it ready for sale. I'll do everything you need in terms of gutting it, because we're a big family and there was 20 years worth of shit in it.
Right.
So
the dumping ground.
It took me a month, you know, and there was an outbuilding the same size, if not bigger than the house, which had, again, more crap in it. So I did that with them. And during that period, I guess, which was about 2 or 3 months, I'd looked at their farm, and they kind of didn't have a way of commercializing it. They had a very small herd. They had meat for themselves. That was pretty much it. But farms cost a lot of money to run. They are, you know, not something I would class as a good retirement package, because there's a lot of work involved.
This is a livestock farm.
Yes, livestock. Yeah. So they'd sort of started to produce meat, put some in the freezer. When I, let's say, turned up, they had 8 freezers in a room, which was an old dairy works at the time. And they had 8 like kind of residential freezers. So something you'd buy at Costco's, right?
Chest freezer thing.
No, not even that. Upright freezers that you'd buy in Costco's.
Wow.
And they had not really sold much of it to anyone. So I said, look, why don't I try and sell that for you? If I can sell that, that means there's a business and I can do something with it. So, you know, I just direct sell, you know, just sold, sorry. I sold everything out the freezers for them, gave them money for that. That was it. And then we bought.
How did you start that then? Down the pub, or online?
So I'd started an Instagram account. I was a big buyer of meat and produce myself. I'm very much into food. And so it wasn't that hard for me to sell something that I knew was good. I was really into dry aging at the time, which had kind of just started to go in the UK. It started to become a thing. And I thought, well, you know, why can't I be like, and at the time there was a company called Pharmacon, who ironically went bust last year and then got bought out by an Asda boss, but another story for another day. And I said, why can't I be Pharmacon? You know, why can't I have a website like that? Why can't I sell, you know, parcels of meat? And my mum said, oh, how are you going to do that? And I said, well, to start with, I need to learn how to butcher, and I'll buy all your produce once I can do that. So what happened was we bought a block, which was secondhand, which I think was about 300 or 400 quid. I taught myself butchery from YouTube, from my phone, literally on the block, which was covered in blood by the end of it. But that phone's gone. And I started an Instagram account and started aging the produce in a beer fridge with some salt and some fans. And again, if you're interested in something, you can make it happen. And it quickly, you know, I quickly worked out that, you know, what we need to do is find more people. So if I can post pictures of my burgers that were made out of the dry aged produce in, you know, the fridge and whatever, and people would come on board and buy them.
And is this grass-fed stuff, is it?
Yeah. So eventually we'd be able to go to the next step and whatever. So it was an interesting period, because obviously it was a huge amount of work to learn how to do the butchery to start with and start the business and go from there. But also there was no shop. So for the first 6 months, I sold literally off the block to people who I guess, managed to convince to come round. Initially, I used to take people around the farm, show them a bit about where the animals were, and then bring them back and try to, let's be honest, make as much money as I could out of them when they came back to the freezers, until that was all gone. Anyway, so that's how it all started. It was really with these dry aged burgers that we were making from, I guess, offcuts, you know, because the steaks would sell very, very quickly, and then you'd be left with all the other bits you need to shift. So that was kind of how the business started, and just did one thing very, very well, and that was making the burgers, and they went like storm, and everyone liked them, and here we are. So
is that the dominant part of your life now then? Is the butchery side?
No, I would say that, you know, I don't work in there too much myself now. There's 7 people that work there at the moment. As soon as I was able to make something, I just continued to reinvest it in. So, you know, I took on my first employee probably before I could afford them, because I needed to grow the business further.
Step, yeah.
So my salary went to them, I didn't earn anything probably for 2 years, I would say, out of when I started. But it was laying the foundations to move on. And, we kind of had a plan between me and my parents are not involved in my business, but we had a plan to make it bigger to pay them more rent. So they were able to get planning for a building. We put the shop in there. I kitted it out, and then they're able to make a lot more money out of the rent. And hopefully that's the way the farm will go eventually, is with more rent from people like me who are using the land, because there's not enough money in the animals, to make it make sense. But the big key was the branding, making it appropriate, making it appealing to people, and obviously the produce itself, but having online presence as well. So, I've got the butchery and the farm shop that's got a coffee shop there. And then separate to that, we've got although they are part of the same business, we've got the online shop, which is amazing. And then, I just kept thinking, well, if we've only got 10,000 people in Brentwood who can support us, there's 70 odd million people. Obviously, absolutely, I know that most of them are not going to be online, but there are 70 million people in the UK, of which, let's say 35 are clicking on something. If they want meat, then maybe they can find us. And, started I built a website for the farm, then built a website for my own shop, kept adding products, got to the point where we could start advertising on Google, and, the rest is history. I think we've been going since 2018. So we'll be coming into our 6th year now, and we've done 4.5 million in revenue since then. So
what did you expect at the start? Or was it?
I left on the basis that I would make more than my salary at JP Morgan within the first year doing something. I didn't care what it was. I just found the meat because, one, I was interested into it, and two, it helped my parents massively to actually use the barns and do something with the produce they'd already got in the freezers. It became apparent that, the farm as a whole would never make anyone any money unless it had rent, unless it had a business like this doing something there. And now I guess the produce from the farm makes up like 2% of what we sell. But we do sell very, very high-end produce. We sell stuff we do Wagyu from Japan, Wagyu from the UK, we do Wagyu from Australia, the US, we do Finnish Ayrshire beef, we do Galician beef, we do all of the things that people find it hard to find. And we are trying our very utmost to be the absolute best that we can be in our industry, which I think we probably are, not being big-headed. It's just that the level of, attention to detail that I have the guys who work for me on is a cut above, what they've done previously.
Literally.
And that's hopefully what makes the difference,
And this is kind of a parallel, which we'll move on to, with how you should be looking at your financial career when you're setting out. You've had a vision, you've gone online, you've gone to nth detail, you've delivered on it, you've got a plan, you've got a growth plan, and this is the key. You can't just go at these things willy-nilly.
No, I completely agree.
The potential's out there, isn't it?
Completely agree. As I said, people will hear the 4.5 million, say that's amazing, but, who was there when we had one customer a day? That was me. Who was there when we had 2 parcels going out that week with DPD? Me. Was there anyone else there? No.
So has Alex tapped into you yet with the ACG sponsored beef deliveries yet?
He's had a few deliveries. Yeah. He's had a few. But what I'm trying to get at with those comments is that it takes a very long time to do anything, and I think everyone gets hoodwinked by the insta famous people and the insta reality, which is not true of overnight success. I can tell you, hand on heart, nothing is overnight success apart from winning the lottery.
Yeah, there's the occasional
boost forward, but we had a big boost forward in COVID, right? When obviously that kicked off, we were so busy we had a 5-week waiting list for orders, which is amazing. But a lot of people didn't have anything afterwards. A lot of people lost a lot of their business afterwards. Why? And how did we maintain it? Well, because we were dedicated to making sure we kept up the same work rate, dedicated to making sure we give the same produce and focus 10
you've been
every day.
A sort of gift to the next level. You've got to keep hold of it.
But that's the thing, and my goal was always to get back into trading because I'm a sucker for the hardship of it.
That was my next question, is going like, this is going so well, you're all over it. What's happened to that passion? Where's the love gone? It's still there, is it?
I just always want more. That's me, that's the true reality of me. I always want more. I can't say no to it. So I'm not happy to settle once it's going. It doesn't run itself. Obviously, I still do a lot of work on it, but I don't need to be there cutting steaks, right? That's not what makes a multi-million-pound business. You cutting steak for one person is not going to make your business grow to seven figures.
No.
You need to think about, right, well, how can we move it to seven figures? Well, the most important thing is looking at how much money you're actually making. And are you making money? If you are, great. If you're not, do something different.
You've got to delegate, and this is the same. I'm just going to keep trying to throw the parallels across to where your mind's at. You just shouldn't keep doing the same losing trades or
of course,
crazy charts. And it's all this is a psyche that you have, which is obviously suiting to trading. So I'm sure you're going to take us next on the journey to where that's gone.
But yeah, as I said, I love the challenge, and I truly believe that, like, you're here to find something that you really, really want to do. And maybe that's a few things. I've got another venture that I'm hopefully be able to tap into in a few years' time. But I'm addicted to trying stuff, and I'm not afraid for it not to work out. I don't mind.
About to say, and you are definitely a person that believes that making mistakes is the way to progress, isn't it? You're not setting out to make them, but you're going to react in a positive way.
Yeah, it's the classic, fall down 7 times, get up 8, and I think that's really important, that the majority of people, let's be honest, in trading particularly, the majority of people don't make money trading because they don't go again, and they don't have the capital to go again. That's why funded trading is so great, is because you don't have to have very much money down. Okay, yes, of course, you could lose the challenges, but you're not putting 200k in an account and losing the whole thing, are you?
And presumably, you've had personal account trading as well. And do you still do that, or do you now feel it's more cost effective?
I focus pretty much solely on funded accounts now. I never really made good money. I only ever, put money in for myself because my capitalization at that point in time wasn't good enough. My goal with my company was always to get to a point where it was all running well. I could oversee it, but I wanted to be able to go and trade myself. Not just because I'm greedy, but it's something like I feel is kind of like it's a stone that I haven't been able to turn over yet. And so I guess with my trading, particularly with the my own capital, was just that it wasn't big enough at the time to make anything, even though you may be making 10% or 20%. If it's on 5k, it's only $1,000, And I don't mean
a lot of stress, because that $5,000 is probably something you might need as well. It's like that whole
I mean, and again, it's not being blasé, but yeah, every time I put 5k in, I'd be losing it. So you do that 15 times, that's 90k. So I think with funded trading, you've got the option of obviously being able to get the funded account, but you have a lot more structure. You have a daily loss limit that you cannot go over, otherwise that's your challenge over, and that's your funded account gone. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, of course it does, but it gives you at least another chance. Whereas you can easily get rid of a 2k account on your own in a matter of minutes if you want to. That's the way, let's be honest, it's all designed. That's why there's so much leverage.
Because if not, you're running blind, aren't you? And you've got bigger losses, so you don't want to be involved in that. So on a daily basis now, what does a trading day look like to you once you've got the cattle shifted out of the way and answered all the problems that are coming through on the phone?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll always be trading from 7. I'm up
Is that based on old time frames from being in the city, or
no? I'm just that's when I always want to be around for 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. I mainly trade the DAX,
right?
And on alpha that'll be the GER 30 or 40 or whatever it's called.
What attracts you to that?
The volatility, and it's pretty good. I don't know, when we used to trade on my desk when I first started trading properly, it was like the beast. It was hard to tame.
It was about the only tech stocks you could get in Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was always, for me, it was always like, well, you can probably make a few quid trading that as long as you're the right way.
Yeah.
That's the same for everything though. But no, I mean, the FTSE doesn't really move very much. It's pretty pointless, particularly with the lot size you've got on offer being 80 lots. So I've always been trading the DAX. I'll trade the NASDAQ and the US 30 as well. And that's pretty much it. Maybe a bit of gold, but I'm a lot more haphazard with that because I don't trade it very frequently. So I probably should just commit to not trading it. So yeah, as I said, I'm always want to be around for the 8 o'clock open. I'm just looking for price action, really thinking about whether there is a support or resistance area that we are already at. If we are, and it goes past that, I'm probably going to go with it.
Because I'm interested in this, with you being a traditional technical analyst, of how you apply that to a funded prop.
Yeah, I don't really trade any technicals. I wouldn't think. It's more price action, just based on how the candles are forming and where we're at. And if it makes sense to get into a trade, I'll get into it. I'd say my biggest weakness is revenge trading, getting into it again, because I hate being wrong like everyone else.
What would be a typical setup? Have you got a particular amount you're going to lose?
So I'll usually go with 0.5%.
Right.
I'm looking to try to only maybe 3/4. I really don't want to be doing more than 1%, particularly on your funded account, because although you've got 20% to lose, once you lose 1% of that, that's actually quite a big lot. It's actually 10% of what you've got available.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you lose 10% in one trade, that's an awful lot you've got to make back on the next one, even though you don't think it until maybe you're halfway towards your final limit. It's
with
actually
your history
quite a lot.
Of playing lots of spreads, particularly having to have stops in those, etc. How do you apply your stop losses in this? You've
always straight away. Yeah, always straight away. I mean, when I say it's probably 0.5 to 0.75%, I'll always just make sure that it is there. And if do
you move them around, or
no, I definitely don't move my stops at all. Maybe a point if it's just slightly, it needs to be slightly bigger, I'll move it slightly bigger. Once it's in, I don't move it. It just usually trades at that area and that's it. But I think the only problem I would have really is just saying no to the next one. And I think when you've traded a lot, as I said from before as well, not that you want to be right, but you have this kind of like addiction almost to going again. And that's something that I need to work on.
I'm hearing that, there's a lot of people who've got this good discipline. And personally, I'm a bit like yourself, that having spent most of my life being permanently trading and not having a choice about it because you're dealing with clients and stuff. It is difficult to go, well, the setup was right in the first place. It's just adjusted. I'm going to go again.
I would also say that maybe people are lying to you.
Yeah.
See, I'm not telling you what you want to hear. I'm not going to say like I'm the most disciplined trader, and no. I'm not. That's the reality. Still make money, but I need to work on things. And I think people need
to tighten up the losses.
Be a bit more honest about it. We none of us are going to be the holy grail. If we were, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, right?
This is it.
Because there's levels to the game. There's people who are very, very good at trading, and there's people who are hopefully on their way to becoming very, very good at trading. But it is a process you have to be applied to for a long period of time before you're going to get really any traction.
And this is hopefully a key message coming across from this interview, that you are all about fundamentally right, sticking with it.
Yeah.
Looking at it again and look again.
You have to be passionate. You have to actually enjoy it. If you enjoy it, then that's great. If you don't, you want to do it for money, I just wouldn't bother, because it's not going to come.
Yeah.
And it also, I would say,
you're then driven by that.
You're driven by the wrong things. But also, I would say that I probably lost was break even for maybe 2 years on my own, whilst that last 2 years.
Was that on your personal account or on the funded?
Let's say funded. Yeah. It took me 2 years to get anywhere to be semi-consistent and not kind of gambling my money away.
So were you burning through accounts to get to that?
Yeah, big time.
Right. And how have you got on since you've found your niche?
Yeah, I mean, I've had regular payouts sort of from September. I haven't had any for the last couple of months. December for my business outside of this obviously is busy, so I wouldn't really be focused too much in trading too much in December. And I think probably for the last, let's say from September, I think I've had payouts of like 50k. So it's been good, but then obviously you're paying for challenges and you're going from there.
So there's a bit of burn.
Yeah, but I guess the thing I'm trying to get across is that it's not easy and it's not meant to be easy. I have to keep telling myself that all the time. Yeah. I try to lump it on and make a trade, and every now and then it works.
Can I just take you back to something you mentioned earlier, which sits with me as well? It's an industry that you kind of knew was around, but didn't know too much about it before you got involved. What gave you confidence as someone from a professional trading environment to come into funded prop?
I don't think there's anything from my environment.
Did you trust it?
I trusted it implicitly. But then again, I got to know Alex, I got to know George. George literally lives down the road to me. He lives in Bewley as well.
Right.
So if there's any problems, I can always go have a go over there.
Firstly, knocking on the door.
But I think when I first got on board with them, it just seemed like a legitimate company compared to a lot of other places, and that was the big selling point.
And you had that sense out in the industry that there are scams out there, but ACG is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd worked with other companies. They're nowhere near as hands-on as what these guys are. And the trading conditions are nothing like what they are. I mean, again, compared to...
And I keep hearing people say that. Can you explain to like the novices out there why is ACG getting that reputation?
If you just compare like what I trade the DAX, and there's half a pip spread between the buy and the sell. If you want to scalp or you want to do anything like that, you can get in and out and get, legitimately not have to have a very big stop. There's other providers out that have like 1 to 3 points. It's huge. You're talking 3 points is 6 times what it is
So they want you over trading then.
Well, not just that, but they're obviously making money between that spread too, right? So if they're getting you to trade at 3 points above and the actual price is another 1.5 lower, they've just made 1.5 trading it anyway. And if they're charging you commissions as well, which if the trades aren't even live, what are the commissions for?
I know there's
like, I mean, let's be honest.
You've probably seen ACG. We're having this debate with people, and they're adamant that they want to go the commission way. Well, we both come from an environment where that makes a lot of people rich, doesn't it? So.
I mean, my commissions were huge when I was trading before. My setup costs when I was trading on the prop desk before were like 3K a month just for fees for the terminal that I was using, the spreader kind of stuff. Your commissions, I mean, obviously we were trading a huge amount of lots, but could be anywhere from £5,000 to £6,000 a month.
You're on the back foot so much. It's like,
so you're talking £3,000 a month for to be able to trade through your provider, plus 5K a month. You're talking £8,000 a month, 24 grand a quarter. And I used to get paid quarterly. So that's something that a lot of people, they think they can't even sort of tell people who work for me, I'm like, guys, look, I think you're all right. I pay you every time it's supposed to be paid. I used to get paid every 3 months.
Oh, no. Can you imagine that payday?
You'll be fine. So
what's the plan then? So you're trying to, you've got another business in the background, and what's the idea with the prop?
My plan with TJB is just to keep it going as it is. We're hopefully stable where we are. We've had a really, really good last 4 months, and keep that going. Hopefully recruit some more people so I can be a little bit more hands off. My grand plan there, I guess, is we may have the opportunity to build a restaurant at some point too, and that'll be really, really cool. So if we can do that, I think that'll be a really, really good thing.
Chelmsford or London?
No, just exactly where the farm is.
Oh, right.
So right next to where the butchery is. And I think it'd be really, really good for the area, because I think we'll probably be able to employ 20 to 30 people. But also, I think
you're not Jeremy Clarkson, so you'll get it through.
Hopefully, yeah. But no, it's what the farm needs.
Yeah.
The farm needs more rental income, needs to have almost a business park there. And if we can get that going, that'd be amazing. But again, that's proper pipeline stuff. That's 3 years down.
I was saying to Alex, one of the commission things we used to do for clients was take them to the butchery courses in the restaurants.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got to get you involved. The ACG.
We're more than welcome. Yeah.
Get us on site.
If you can afford my hourly rate, you're more than welcome to it. So yeah, there's that. My other plan for the company was to try to buy property with the profits we're making. So I'll hopefully be able to do that this year, because that's something that I think is really important, is that when you've got something going, don't assume it's always going to be great. Try to diversify yourself into other things. Right. Again, it's probably completely different to all the other guys because they're all 100% traders. And so I do think that you should never have your sights set on this is going to work forever. Even if it does, things
you will
happen.
have ups and downs, and you've got to be prepared.
Things happen. And in my trading, my goal really is to try to, for 2024, to make 6 figures trading through Alpha. I think it's doable.
So you're halfway
as I
there.
said. Yeah, I'm saying not including that bit.
Net,
yeah. I think it's possible. It's just, I really think that I need to work on discipline and kind of keep coming back to my own ideas that things don't happen very, very quickly and don't happen overnight. Once you boil it back down to that, actually that money is not very hard to make on a 200k account. Even if you wanted to make 10k a week, it's only $2,000 a day. That's 1%. So keep thinking like that instead of thinking I need to make 10 grand.
It's the small chugging amounts, isn't it? It's the ticks, and it's not trying to knock it out of the park.
No, and also I would say that whenever I've traded, the absolute best has always been making consistent small trades. Not this monster trade that's going to make my entire life savings go up 200%. So boil it down to that and try to be a bit more, not just disciplined, but be a bit more strategic. I think because you trade price action like I do, you're almost able to trade any tick on the day because there's no reason why not to get into it. But I think it's actually thinking, right, well, how can I make more reasons to get into it and have a structure in place that says, oh, maybe that's not the right way to go. And I think that's really what I would need to focus on. Try to, again, focus more on the times of day that are better. Between 8 and 9 is a high volume period in Europe. It always will be because that's when the first
after the opens.
Exactly.
And then you get the bias in the afternoon with, as I said earlier, the way VWAPs trade and
at the moment,
big orders come.
Yeah, at the moment it's been sell off in the morning for a very, very small number of pips and then blow it out of the park in the afternoon when the US comes on board. I don't know how long that's going to go on forever because we are at all-time highs and I'm not sure I agree with where we are, but you can't lie with where it is. So
No, it's
if the price is still there, and it means that everyone's collectively agreeing that's
the way
true.
the way your money's there. The problem is you've got all this money market money in the background that normally gets it wrong and piles in around the top anyway. So we probably haven't had the melt up yet, regardless.
No, I think we probably go quite a bit further. You know, all the pensions got to keep buying, all the trusts, they will keep buying because they're going to only be long, aren't they? So there's going to be a huge long bias now, unless we have some data in the next kind of couple of months that says actually the economy is going to take a downturn. If
and with your background, do you find yourself still wanting to look at the data points and the?
I'm just personally interested into it. You know, I listen to Bloomberg Radio when I'm in my car because I find it interesting. I don't think it really impacts my trading.
Right.
I probably have a small short bias because I kind of think, well, it doesn't make sense. We haven't had a recession, even though we should have had a recession. And the COVID thing just went down the straight back up again. And actually, in where I am in the industry I'm in outside of this, you know, if you look at all of the interest rates and you look at the price of things, our prices are continuing to go up because the supplies are going up, which at some point got to stop. So I know people are still going to eat their food, but are they now moving towards cheaper alternatives? I don't know. Only time will tell. But maybe the stock market's nothing related to the true economy. Maybe actually looking at it that way is wrong. Retail sales, although they're important, are probably have no impact on the 30 companies in the DAX. So even thinking that they are is probably pointless. I guess in terms of trading, the only thing for me to look at is what's the chart doing today, and if it's moving the right way where I think I should go, then I'll get involved. I just think, for me, as I said, I'm just personally interested into it, but does it have an impact? I think only time will tell. Literally, you know, with the data that's coming, particularly things like retail sales, you looked at the one from December in the UK as being really negative. I mean, that's quite a lot, minus 3% or 3.2%. But hasn't had any impact at all.
No, because there's too much focus on the pushback prints that come out.
So
I look at I've got macro background, and you look at a lot of things, and there's plenty of room for any of them to cut rates overnight if they wanted to. There's enough of a.
My only feeling with if they cut rates, it's going to spark another boom in housing because everyone's now okay with the rates where they are. When I say okay, I'm sure people would be happier if they were lower.
There's a lot of mortgages to roll off, and
well, they just haven't rolled off, have they?
Yeah.
My own mortgage rolls off in March.
I've got November. I'm praying.
Oh, that's okay. You should have a couple of moves down.
Hopefully, got a couple in there. But that, again, that's it's easy to concentrate on bad headlines, but there's people in the periphery that are already changing those 5-year rates. You can
ours has come down quite a lot.
Snowball.
Yeah, ours has come down a lot. So that should be good. I mean, if we'd gone in September, I think an extra £1,000 looks like.
And finally, to wrap up, ACG, is there anything else you think that we should be doing? Or
my only thing for me personally is the 80 lot limit for what I trade is not enough. I would ideally have double that amount or 150 lots to use. That's the only thing for me that I would change. Service is great. Obviously, the no commissions is great. The actual kind of trading ability to trade, ability to execute orders. I've had no problems with any. I guess I'm expecting a bit of slippage, so I'm not that bothered when it happens.
And the fact that the website goes down frequently, but for good reasons.
I mean, I think that's the only thing now. Obviously, the website's getting used an awful lot, so that's something that I'm sure you guys are going to build into, improving as we go forward. But the only thing I would say, is just the lots limits for people who trade indexes. If you trade indexes, you just need a bigger amount because of the way they're structured on the platform. If you were to trade 100 lots of gold, it's 10 grand for a full point. Obviously you wouldn't do that. But for me to trade 100 lots on the DAX, if it moves 10 pips, that's only $1,000. So actually, it's not a very big size at all.
Sure, and we want to attract more people like you.
Yeah, so hopefully they listen to this.
I think
we can move forward.
Hear it knocking.
Yeah, but honestly, and I'm not trying to just big it up. I've worked with you guys now for I think 12 to 18 months, and I've not had any issues whatsoever. Particularly with the team, and as I said, it's great that there's an actual company, and it's a real thing. It's not just 5 or 6 people on the computer somewhere in Europe where no one knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm sure there's lots of.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? They pop up all over the place. We're dealing with AI left, right, and centre. You don't know what is not fake news, etc.
Yeah.
But I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Hearing all about how you set up and the successes you've had, following your dream.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of messages people can take away from what's been a wonderful conversation there about do things the right way and stick with it. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. If there's only one thing that I think people need to do is just apply yourselves, and if you do really want to do it, I'll keep going back to that, that cliche of passion. If you really, really want to be in trading, you will keep going, because, I lost, as I said, for a couple of years before I managed to get some sort of consistency. And, I don't think that's stupid, because if you like it and you want to work out a way of doing it, you have to do that. And
you'll educate yourself.
I guess be happy to not make money for a pretty long time before you get
anywhere. It's a tough call, isn't it? But
it is. But hopefully on the other side of it is a big dream.
You deserve the upside.
Exactly.
Brilliant. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much. Ta.